Welcome into the party on Broad. I'm Freddie Birds with Chris Dives and Philly Rob. We are all back together. I'm excited. I've been MIA for I don't even know. So hyped up today. We got an amazing show for you. Sixers big win last night over the Celtics. Almost choked it up though. I was there live. We'll get into Joel Embiid, the MVP talk. Is the race closed now? Is the case closed, as Doc Rivers says? Is the race over? We'll talk about that. And it's April, NFL draft month. The draft is just about 22 days, so 3 weeks away. We're going to get into the first round and how we think it should go, as well as there's a lot of rumors about the Eagles going running back with this Bijan Robinson. We'll get into drafting a running back in the first round as well. But why don't you kick me off first, Dives? Sixers, huge win last night. Joel Embiid, 52 points on 80% from the field, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, plus 17. Give it to me.
It was everything, man. It was a performance that gave me hope that the Sixers have a chance to beat Boston. We all know the Eagles struggle against this kind of team. When you look at Boston, it's all about coaching and the Sixers' lack of bench, and that's where Boston is really, really good. And they were kind of down a couple players last night. You look at White, you look at Brogdon, you look at Williams, Muscala, Pritchard. They're so much better at what the Sixers have to offer, especially with rotations, especially with coaching in that aspect. But Embiid was so freaking good that it gives you hope, because the Sixers have a true, clear advantage in their starting unit, most notably the Embiid Harden pick and roll in that middle of the court. I talked about it on the post-game show last night, man, and where Joel Embiid has matured the most is how he, when he found PJ Tucker in the corner, not once, not twice, but 3 times. In previous years, you would have seen him kind of force it himself. You would have seen it. You would have seen him turn it over in traffic. You would have seen him take a difficult shot with 2 or 3 defenders in his face. To me, that is the sign of a true MVP, a sign of a guy that's growing leaps and bounds. There are no words to express how incredible Embiid was, and that's it. Just all you have to do is, turn off the Twitter, watch the game, and he is the true MVP.
Only 3 turnovers all night. He was doubled and triple teamed, sometimes single teamed. Great point there with Embiid. You got the Sixers stuff on, Rob. You got me hooked up. I'm in playoff mode now. I'm ready to go. Do you got that energy with me?
Yeah. I mean, look, the next 3 games are absolutely irrelevant now, because I think they've already, but I don't think Cleveland can top them now. I think there's a 3-game difference.
Yeah, they clinched the 3 seed, and yeah. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if the Celtics lost 3 and we won 3, we would get the 2 seed, but that's not going to happen.
So for all intents and purposes, the next 3 games are meaningless in the sense that, you want to give some guys a rest here and there. You want to give James Harden a night off out of one of these 3 games. Go ahead, do it. What you saw last night was what I think all of us have been trying to say all year, that there should never have been an MVP conversation this year. I mean, outside the very beginning part of the year, and then after that 12-12 start, Embiid erupted, and that was it. Last night ended all conversations. It ended all. You give it the Vince Carter dunk contest, it's over, because not only does he do that, but Jokic goes and gets outplayed by Houston in a rout loss. So it's just because, listen, I don't want to go game by game, but everyone that has fought against Joel Embiid has literally just come out of the woodwork after one bad game or one night off or whatever it might be. So you want to go game by game, there you go. Okay, there it was last night. It was all over but the crying now. Joel Embiid went up to minus 430 or 440 in the betting sites as favorite to win MVP. It's done. It's over. It's not going to happen. What you saw last night was truly masterful. There's a night. I know it got crazy at the end, but they beat the Celtics, which is all we wanted to see them do. They did not have good nights from Tyrese Maxey or Tobias Harris. I thought James Harden played well. I mean, he had 20 and 10. Most guys would kill to have a 20 and 10 night. He had his 20 and 10 night last night. Can they play with Boston? Yes, but Dives hit on it. What worries me the most about a 7-game series with the Boston Celtics, their bench depth is so much better than what the Sixers is on a nightly basis. Every now and again, Niang will go off and up that. But for the most part, you're talking Niang, Melton, who, once again, comes and goes. Paul Reed, I love the kid, but how much is he going to give you from that offensive standpoint when you need some scoring? It'll be interesting. But you know what? They got to win. Now we go into the playoffs with a little bit of momentum as they beat Boston at the end of the season.
As you said, not only did it go to 300, as you see here, I'm sharing my screen. We're up to minus 750 in one game. What a switch that is. How many people had to have bet him and Embiid off of last night for it to switch that quickly? So, as Doc Rivers said immediately when the game ended, we did a lot of things bad tonight. The one thing we did good was have Joel Embiid on our team. I'm paraphrasing that. But then the comment was the MVP race is over. The Sixers scored 103 points, and Joel Embiid had 52 of them. Like, this is Will Chamberlain stuff. You know what I mean? I haven't seen a performance like that. I mean, he's had performances like that before, but live being there since Allen Iverson. It was Allen Iverson-esque because it wasn't even just Embiid getting to the free throw line, which is the apparent knock on him for being a good free throw shooter in this MVP race. He was 20 of 25 from the field.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop him. There was no way. They had to put three guys there at the foul line. I love this pick and roll that we have that's not a drive to the lane. I used to hate on it. I'm like, why isn't he rolling to the basket? And all of a sudden, I'm like, this is freaking genius. It's a pick and roll with an easy jump shot. He was remarkable last night. Dives, how do you feel about it?
I mean, when it comes to like NBA MVP, especially during regular season, because let's be honest, that's what we're talking about when it comes to Nikola Jokic. Here we go. Let's talk about it. This is a graphic I made breaking down Joel Embiid versus Giannis versus Jokic when it comes to clutch statistics. You look at Joel Embiid. He's got more points than Giannis and Jokic. Turnovers, he's right there. I mean, that was like the biggest issue with Joel Embiid when it came to clutch situations in previous years. He's only got 13 on the season. Field goal percentage, right there. Usage rate definitely has the highest usage rate. Plus 99, plus minus on the court in clutch situations this season. The net rating, hold on, let me take down the banner so I can.
I got
Can you take that down banner, Freddie? There you go. Thank you. And then you look at that net rating, by far the best, and assist percentage is right there as well. So Joel Embiid in clutch situations, when we really talk about who is the MVP, taking their team on his back, that is Joel Embiid, and you can't argue that. It is by far Joel Embiid, the MVP.
I don't know how these voters go, though. I'm a big eye test guy. Like, I like looking at the stats and using them as like a tool. And like, this is proving a point here, the clutchness. But just watching NBA games, like even Giannis, I know how much he can take over a game, but he can't hit a jumper to save him a lick. Like, he has to bully his way to the basket to score points. And if he has a night where he's hitting threes and stuff, that's great. And he puts on a good statistical day. But I take Joel Embiid over Giannis. Go over to Jokic. The defense is completely non-existent. It's just not there. It's a what do you call it? Passing doors, like whatever them doors are called. That's you spin right through. And though he is a great player, and as a passer, he got Embiid beaten there. But it's not like Embiid's a terrible passer. You saw this last night. He found PJ Tucker in the corner when the triples and doubles came. I don't understand how the voters are just going to take analytics and vote Jokic. It drives me insane.
Yeah, listen, for me, this MVP race ended a while back, in my opinion, when I was watching a game. Denver was playing. It was a late game situation. They were on defense, and they subbed out Jokic. If you have to be subbed out because your defense is that subpar in the crux of a game, you cannot be the MVP this season. You can't. I mean, look. Dives is the stats guy, so he's going to give you the stats that prove the point. Freddie, you're kind of in the middle. I'm just going, if you have to pull a man from the game because his defense is so bad, he can't be the MVP for, let me put it to you this way. He can't be a 3-time in a row MVP. You know, I forget who said it, and I don't really like the talking heads that are out there, but somebody made a great point. They said, if you're going to win back-to-back-to-back MVPs, you have to elevate to another level. Jokic did this year what he did last year and what he did the year before. There was no elevation. Joel Embiid went to a whole nother level this year. He shot better. His turnovers were down. His defense, he had more blocks this year. There were more games where I was impressed with his rebounding than in years past, where like I'd be a little upset if he only had 7 rebounds in a game. You know, think about last night, 52 points, but he's got 13 rebounds. He probably had 2 or 3 blocks last night. I mean, to me, this thing, and I don't want to put Jokic down because I don't want to be that guy that has to put one down to pick another guy up. But to me, it's just clear that Joel Embiid has been the MVP this year. And honestly, the fact that it got close because Embiid sat out against Denver and didn't want the smoke, which was the stupidest comment of all time, is ridiculous.
It was kind of a stupid move on his part to sit out that game. He could have sat out the Suns game. Why did he sit out that game? Though? I know he does. It's not that I don't think he was scared of Jokic or anything. He crushed him in Philly. But like, I'm like, why? Why would you play it back to back and then take off that game?
Because where was that game at? That game was in Denver, right?
And altitude.
You've listened to professional athletes talk about this for years and years. You're at the end of a 4-game road trip. James Harden, you probably isn't going to play. He's got to sit one of these games. And look, let's face it, Joel gets fatigued. I mean, he does. He's when you're as big as he is, it's understandable, right? I really saw nothing wrong with it. And it annoyed me the way that people tried to turn it into, oh, he just doesn't want to play. When he literally a month before put up 48 points on Jokic. So it's so irrelevant to me, that one game. The MVP's the whole season, and Joel Embiid has been that MVP all season.
Not to harp on it anymore, but I'll take it a step further. He should have been the MVP last year. He played at this level last year, and it kills me. They just look at analytics. You can tell watching Twitter who watches the games and who doesn't, because they'll go through and they'll use a stat. And then you'll see dialogue with people. You'll be like, they didn't even watch the game. They have no idea what the play was. Like Joel Embiid last night did this over-under foul N1. He flipped it up off the backboard. On the stat sheet, that's going to show as 2 points. But that's an unbelievable play. Like, that's remarkable. And on the stat, it's going to show whatever his jump shots were. It's not going to show he shot it over someone's head in his face or fading off a double team backwards. You know, all that stuff is just not shown on there. It should be used as a tool. And the fact that these voters strictly vote on that, it drives me insane.
Yeah, fully agree, man.
All right. Well, we all agree. I don't think, are we being homers? I don't think we are.
100%.
There's a little bit of homerism in it, but there's also, it's the one time where there's factual evidence to back up our homerism. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't like we're out here trying to say, like, I don't even know. I can't even think of like a situation, but, you know, there's factual evidence behind this. So the homerism is warranted in this case.
All right. Well, enough of the MVP. Well,
you could literally go back to their matchup 2 months ago. I literally made a video of this back at the end of January where Embiid just completely owned Jokic in pretty much every single respect. And there's also tons of videos out there of teams in clutch situations literally targeting Jokic on defense, going at him back to back to back for buckets. So even though he had that 92.9 defensive rating, just like any kind of analytic stat, just like any kind of stat you want, it can be missed and twisted and all that kind of stuff as just to fit your narrative. But Embiid is the MVP for what he does on both ends of the court, no question.
No doubt about that. And right now, before we get into the NFL draft, we have to thank our wonderful sponsors. And let's start with David R. Cherry, Esquire, Cherry Law, the Cherry Firm PC, workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, or criminal law. Please call him now, 610-565-0300. He'll get you out of trouble. David R. Cherry, Esquire. Phillies have a home opener tomorrow. We also have a great trip site, phillysportstrips.com. They have a home opener tailgate package tomorrow, $100. Everything is included. Go check it out. Go down to the game, drink and eat at a good price. Right, I think they're doing it right at the Live there, the Casino Live. So it's an easy walk right to Citizens Bank. They have a ton of trips all throughout the year. Just had a trip up to Yankee Stadium on Monday, packed the house there. I've been on plenty of their trips. Go to phillysportstrips.com. Check them out today. The next one coming up after that, actually the draft in Kansas City, another cool one there. They had one to the Super Bowl. Go to their website, check them out. Great company. If you don't want to take a trip, though, and you just need to get tickets, I got you covered there, too. Sherry'sTickets.com. Go to Sherry's Ticket Town, www.sherry'stickets.com. They have sports, concerts, theaters. And I'll tell you myself, there's been multiple times where I go to get tickets for a game, and I look on StubHub first, or I shouldn't say that. I look on another outside market first. And then, but that's the common one people use. And then I go compare it to Sherry's Tickets. They have no fees at all. So with the other ones, you click on your price, you go to the page, and then you get hit with $25, $40 per ticket fees. Go to Sherry's Tickets, and we also got 10% off. Put in the promo code EOP10. Get yourself 10% off. That's Sherry's Tickets. Sorry, I'm trying to get that off the screen. I little stuttered there. So let's get into the I normally have my script. I forgot my script today, so I apologize for stuttering through that, but I think I nailed it anyhow.
Did great.
Anyway, before we get into the draft, I got a little draft trivia for you because I'm seeing this Bijan Robinson first round running back stuff. It kind of gets me boiled up. So I just want to ask you guys, and you probably don't know, but you'll have some guesses. Over the last 30 years, the Eagles, and they didn't draft this running back, on the roster, okay, have had 2 running backs. Now 3. Rashad Penny's number 3, but he hasn't played yet. 2 running backs that have ever been drafted on the first round in the last 30 years on this roster. Can you guess them?
What does 30 years take us back to?
Holy cow.
73.
I know that they drafted Keith Byers. I know for a fact that Keith Byers was a first-round running back that they drafted. I think. Was he first round?
He did. Yeah. He was 1986.
He was the first-round running back that they drafted. I know that for a fact.
Wow.
1993. Yeah. It's taking us back to 1993. Yep.
All right, so 93. So if we're going back to 93, then Keith Byers wouldn't be on this list then, right?
Right.
Because he was in 86. He's the only one they ever drafted in the first round.
Right, 86. These 2 players were not drafted by the Eagles. They were signed. But they're the only ones signed or drafted, either one, from 1993 on, that was a first-round running back.
Like some of those veterans that they brought in over the years.
It's definitely a veteran. It's definitely a veteran, like that's where I'm going.
I'll narrow it down for you. Between 2010 and 2017.
Was Ryan Matthews one of them?
Bingo. That's one.
That was one
of
the.
Done.
That was one I was thinking.
And this guy was famous for throwing the ball up in the air.
Oh my God. That's not Reggie Brown. It's the
Auburn Tiger.
Yeah, he ran with Cadillac. He was Ronnie Brown.
Ronnie Brown. You got it. Good stuff there, Rob.
Well done, Rob.
That stupid son of a bitch. That play was right in front of the end zone where my season tickets were. And I remember watching it live before they showed a replay, and I was like, did he just throw the ball? And everyone's like, no, it got hit out of his hands. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure he just fucking threw the ball. I was like, he threw the ball. It was that whole season was just.
Want to hear something even worse? The play was for him to throw the ball.
Yeah, that's right. It was for him to throw the ball.
But we didn't know that but he still shouldn't have thrown the ball. He was falling down.
He was laying on his back.
He's on his back. Throwing it up. Well, that brings us into the Eagles draft. We got a nice first round. We have 2 picks, 10 and 30. A lot of rumors that Bijan Robinson will be drafted in the first round. I want to go first and just do a little rant here because year after year after year, we go through this are we going to draft a running back on the first round? We haven't done it since 1986. It was Keith Byers, good running back, was kind of a fullback, halfback most of his career, could play tight end, could catch the ball out of the backfield, good player. First round pick? I don't know about that because you don't win Super Bowls with first round running backs. You don't win Super Bowls with star running backs. It's completely unnecessary. It really is. Like, can you guys even, like the last one, and this is because I did research on it. I did a video like 3 months ago when the first mock started drafting. It's Edgerrin James is probably the last one. Edgerrin freaking James. And some people will say Marshawn Lynch, but he wasn't even the leading rusher. It was Percy Harvin in that Super Bowl. And Marshawn Lynch did not have a great year statistically that year. So you got to pay him too much money. In 4 years, you got to pay him, a la Zeke Elliott and Saquon Barkley. Are those two not kind of washed up? Zeke definitely is. Saquon is not the guy he was before. Year after year, we have this conversation. I am going to lose my mind if they draft a running back at 10 or 30. I'll deal with the second round. The pay's a little bit different. But even that, what was Miles Sanders worth? Because we got another player there and drafted someone in the fourth, A.J. Dillon in the fourth, fifth, sixth. Like, it is so unnecessary. It drives me insane. My rant is over. I'll start with you, Rob. Would you draft a running back in the first round?
99.999999% of the time, I agree with everything you just said, Freddie. I am with you.
They got you. They brainwashed you. What's the point? The 99 point. So point one. Go ahead. Give me the point one. They got you. They got you this year.
I've been gotten from this standpoint. Okay, this team defensively is going to take a step back this year. Doesn't matter how you shake it out. The guys that they picked up on this roster right now are not better than the guys that were there. Okay, right? I mean, I don't think Terrell Edmonds is better than C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The linebackers now, maybe Nick Moreau's better than I thought, but,
It's also April 5th.
Yes, but my point is this. This is the point I'm making. Your offense is elite. Your offense is elite. And you mentioned Edgerrin James. Who is Bijan Robinson being compared to right now?
There's a little Edgerrin James.
There's a little Edgerrin James.
Do we remember who is? No, I love Jalen Hurts, but do we remember who the quarterback was, though?
I understand that, but think about the offense that is run here with Jalen Hurts. Think about a defense having to decide, is it Bijan or is it Jalen? But here's the other thing that I'm going to say. You're absolutely right. You got to pay these guys. The Eagles have shown us year after year after year, they'll keep a running back on the first contract, and then they won't pay him. And I'm okay with that because by the end of 4 or 5 years, there's going to be a lot more tread on those tires. But right now, you could have Bijan Robinson at, I think it's $5 million a year, something like that, where you look at some of the bigger names of guys that people love, $12 million a year, $10 million a year. So here's my thing.
But they don't win Super Bowls, Rob. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
But the Eagles have the quarterback. The Eagles have the wide receivers. The Eagles have the offensive line. They have those people. And what did Kansas City show us last year? You don't need an elite defense to win because Kansas City's defense was not elite all year. You need to score more points than the other team. I'm not saying that I believe the Eagles are going to do this because at the end of the day, I don't believe they're going to do it. If they pick Bijan Robinson, I could see my reaction if I'm on the live draft show with you, just kind of being like one of these little sly smiles. Like, oh, shit. And my thought process is this. The people that go ballistic about it and hate it, there's going to be a point next season where they're all like, oh, shit. And that's like the guy. So
there might be.
Listen, I am in full agreement that, yes, running backs don't win you Super Bowls. But, look, I felt like this once a few years ago about a guy that I thought could just blow the roof off of defenses. And his name was Justin Jefferson. And I was told by everybody at Dibes that Jalen Reagor was going to be better than Justin Jefferson. All right. So when
I sipped the Kool-Aid too, Dibes. I sipped the slot receiver Kool-Aid too. I wasn't with you guys at the time, but I'm not going to deny it.
There will never be a draft show where Rob doesn't rub that shit in my face.
The explosive TCU running back out of the backfield. I ate that. I bought all into that. I'm with you, Dibes. I get it.
But I'm just saying that to me, if I was ever going to do this, Bijan Robinson would be the guy that I personally would do it for. Don't think it's going to happen. Not going to be devastated if it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, there's going to be me doing this in the corner somewhere going, oh, my God.
Dives, quickly, would you do it?
April 5th, 2023, the first time I ever agree with Freddie. Absolutely, with 1,000%. Do not draft Bijan Robinson in the first round. Plenty options available. Day 2, day 3. There was a better chance the Eagles take Rashawn Johnson out of Texas, his teammate, on day 3, than Bijan Robinson. It is not happening. Zach Charbonnet. How about Devin Achane, a guy that can just literally take the top off of defense as a receiver?
Is that the Texas A&M kid?
Yeah,
take him. 4th round, 3rd round.
3rd, 4th round, 5th round, fast as hell. There's just tons of options. Chase Brown, 220 pounds, speedster, can bowl over people. There's several very good options for the Eagles on day 2, day 3 at running back. It makes no sense, especially when it comes to the Eagles.
All right, let's jump into what we would do here in the first round with our picks. We'll start with the first round pick. And I just want to preface this by saying we're going to assume that Jalen Carter does not fall to 10.
Damn.
Because, I mean, we can't. We all, you'd be an idiot not to take him at 10, right?
Well, you know what? They said it this week, and I agree. There's a reason Jalen Carter won't talk to any team outside of the top 10. And I think that the Eagles basically told him, by the way, if you by some chance get to 10, we're taking you. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that was discussed between the Eagles and Jalen Carter during his official visit.
Yeah, I would take Jalen Carter in a heartbeat. He is my number 1 player in the entire draft. And I know he's had a lot of crap thrown against the wall, hitting the fan over the last few months or few weeks. But what he would bring to the Eagles alongside Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox in 2023 would be outrageous. He's a 3-down starter, elite twitch, elite burst off the line. It's a match made in heaven for the Eagles.
So who are we going with first round? If you had your pick, what would you do at first round? You could trade back if you want. You could do whatever. What would you do with that first round pick at 10?
Who's going first?
Yeah,
you go, Dibs.
It's Miles Murphy. 6'5", Trayvon Walker-esque type of dude. He had his pro day. Was an absolute physical freak. 4.51, 40-yard dash, 25 reps on the bench press. Has elite acceleration and burst off the line of scrimmage, man. Just watch his tape. I do not know why scouts and draft analysts have been dogging this dude over the last 2 months, because we've seen his draft stock dip a little bit. He hasn't tested in quite some time because of an injury, but he has awesome tape, really good production, great measurables. He can come to the Eagles and not be expected to really be on the field that much. But I think this is a guy that has 3-down starting potential and just worlds of upside, learning under Josh Sweat, learning under like Hassan Reddick or Brandon Graham, or he could play anywhere across that defensive line. It is just the biggest no-brainer selection. When the Eagles' first-round pick, the number 10 pick, kept moving down, and I was getting upset on these shows on Party on Broad. I was mainly upset because our chances of landing a Miles Murphy was getting worse and worse. But now he's kind of falling, so it's I guess a double-edged sword. But number 10, Miles Murphy, Jalen Carter. If those two guys are not available, you trade down and get assets.
I like the position you went there. I like pass rush. That's a good call there. Rob, what would you do at 10?
Yeah, listen, Miles Murphy is definitely on my board. Jalen Carter is definitely on my board. What I would not mind seeing, but you probably won't for numerous reasons. First of all, someone put out a stat. You know, Howie Roseman has never traded back in the first round, like going back. He's only traded up. Somebody said, or since he's been.
No, he traded back initially. Before the Devontae Smith move, yeah.
On draft day.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think that's what somebody put the stat out there. He trades up actually more than he trades back. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do that, what I would not mind seeing them do, especially if Miles Murphy, Jalen Carter are off the board, trade back a few spots. Brian Branch, the safety from Alabama.
I love it, man.
Look, I am somebody. I mean, I'm looking at a wall in my basement that is literally dedicated to Brian Dawkins. 4 jerseys, 5 jerseys, 7 pictures. I mean, I idolize tremendous safety play. Now, I understand things got hectic with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I understand you didn't want to pay Marcus Epps, but there's a glaring hole in the center of that defense right now. And I think a guy like Brian Branch with the Alabama pedigree at the safety position could finally give us a young guy to play right away, but also to turn into one of the better safeties in this league. And I would love to see the Eagles go a little bit outside of their box and do something like that, drafting a safety in that middle 14, 15 range if they were to trade back. I mean, like I said, I'm all in. Dibes really was the first guy who got me on Miles Murphy, but I've looked more into it and I love it. Jalen Carter is by far if he's there at number 10, you do nothing but take him. But man, if they could get Brian Branch in this draft, I feel a whole lot better about the center of that defense.
I like both your options. I'm going to stay with the same position as Dibes. Well, kind of. He drops into coverage a little bit as well. I think they could trade back 2 or 3 picks possibly here and still draft Nolan Smith out of Georgia. He's been injured. He had some injury issues, so he didn't play as much, but his combine was outstanding. Edge rusher, study behind Brandon Graham a little bit, and his son Reddick, because he can play some outside linebacker. You still have Sean Desai, defensive coordinator. I'm going to assume he does some of the same things Gannon likes to do with moving guys off the line and back. I just think if you could trade back a few, add a third, add a fourth, and, draft an edge rusher that can also play linebacker, it's a no-brainer there. So I think all 3 of us kind of nailed that there. Let's move to the pick 30, and we'll just keep going in the same order. Rob first, who would you take at 30?
Number one thing I would look to do is trade back and get assets with this pick. See if there's a guy on this board that someone is dying to have, maybe one of the quarterbacks, not realistically, but maybe a quarterback's fallen and somebody wants a quarterback and they're willing to give you, a couple second, third, fourth round picks that would really make sense for you. So that's something that I would not be surprised to see how we do. I also wouldn't mind taking this pick and packaging it with something else to get an impact player that is already in the league. Obviously AJ Brown, you're a little bit higher up. I got a couple guys. I got a couple safeties out there that I would be making calls on. Jeremy Chin, if you don't get Brian Branch. I also have really grown to the idea of if you don't get Jalen Carter, you don't get a defensive tackle, give Tennessee a call. If they're in full rebuild mode and they want to trade you Justin Simmons, see if you can make that happen. That would be a prime thing. Now, if they were to stay here and draft, I would, I think it's going to be a best player available. If Bijan Robinson falls to 30, they think about it, right? They think about it at least for 5 minutes. If it's at 30, they think about it.
You traded to the idiot team that's going to give you a second or a third for that pick.
If you don't get your pass rusher, then you look for a pass rusher at this point. There's a couple good corners that maybe you take a shot at, if they're there. Keely Ringo, if he's hanging around at 30, not a bad player. And Dives had brought this up a few weeks ago. A lot of people think that he could even be a safety in this league. So he gives you a lot of optionality, and we know the Eagles love optionality in their defenders. So they're my couple of ideas of what I would go with that 30th.
How about you, Dives?
You stole it from me, Rob. I think Keely Ringo has Eagles written all over him. That's a really good fit. DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State. A lot of people won't like that pick because it's a pick for not next year, but for the next 10 years. But a guy that can replace Lane Johnson, 6'8", unbelievable measurables, has dominated the last 2 seasons. Not just as a tackle though, but on the interior as well. He can do both. Really, really showed me. I was really impressed with his quick feet at the Senior Bowl. Just dominated every single rep, every single one-on-one situation. The other guy I like a lot out of Pittsburgh is Kalijah Cansey. if he's there at number 30, just adding more weapons on the interior defensive line, I think would be really smart. He's more of a pass rusher. He's small, but the Eagles love to rotate their guys anyway. I think that rotation with him and Milton Williams inside, outside could be really, really fun alongside Jordan Davis. So Kalijah Kancey out of Pitt would be really fun. Lastly, Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback. I think they could still continue to address the cornerback position. He's really thin, really light, but arguably he's a former wide receiver, and it shows when you watch tape because he is absolutely dynamic. He's arguably the best playmaker in this draft. If you want to replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in his interceptions, Emmanuel Forbes is your guy, man. He's a wide receiver for your defense.
I just feel like I'm just getting more and more knowledge from you two and just getting educated. Like it's great stuff. Like I love doing these things with people. It's amazing. It's
all my knowledge comes from Dive. So
I do look up a lot of Dive stuff, but why wouldn't you? He's on the same team as us, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
But just the ideas and where people are. For me at 30, I think you probably could draft this guy at 30. I think he would be there. I think he may be, if we trade it back into the early second round, maybe first 5 or so picks. I'm gonna go Osiris Torrance out of Florida, offensive guard. So we got Kelsey's on the way out. We have Landon Dickerson. We have Cam Jurgens. Is Cam Jurgens going to be the center? I don't know. He should be. He'll play guard this year to get his feet wet. Eventually, Kelsey's going to move on. This guy is probably the only guy that held his own against Jalen Carter, which is stunning in its own. You know, watching the SEC in the games against Carter with him, he actually held his own. Not that he stopped him, because no one can stop Carter. And one stat I read about him, which is I love, 0 penalties in 2022. 0. I hate penalties. I hate them. So I think that's a good way to draft offensive line depth. It fits what the Eagles do, and he's not a bad player. So I would go Osiris Torrance out of Florida.
Love Osiris Torrance. I love that slide. Dude's a beast. He's not going to play tackle for you, but sometimes that's a good thing because he is a guard and he is a mauler, man. He's a beast.
I am totally fine using 30 on an offensive lineman. I'm not fine using 10 on an offensive lineman.
Get ready for that, man. Because
Thomas
is going to be definitely in Howie's brain.
I'm already fully prepared to be super annoyed on draft night because when you have Jeff Stoutland, I don't believe you have to take the 10th pick on the offensive line.
I couldn't agree more.
That's a great point.
That's my only point.
I mean, Jordan Mailata is our starting tackle. That is a great point.
30 be my guess. 30 be my guess. But 10, get a guy that's going to make plays on a stat, whether it's a defensive lineman rushing or a safety, whatever. I don't care. Draft another damn wide receiver. Just I'm like Howie.
The guy that has Howie written all over him is a guy named Blake Freeland out of BYU. 6'8". Look at the combine. Just YouTube it. Ridiculous measurables. Broke tons of records. His RAS score is off the charts. Super raw though. Kind of like Jordan Mailata coming out of Australia. Super, super raw. Needs to learn a lot of technique. But if he can get coached up under Jeff Stoutland, he's a day 3, day 2 kind of guy. I think it makes so much sense. I think he's got an Eagles written all over him.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff, guys. Well, that's all we have for tonight. Great show here on Party on Broad. Check us out next week, 6:15 on Wednesday. Where can they find you, Rob?
Find me on Twitter, Philly_madness, here on Party on Broad. Was talk with Dibes. I'm pumped up to do as many post-game playoff games for the Sixers this year. When I'm not in attendance, I will be in attendance for a few of them. So, but looking forward to that. And I'm hoping honestly, I'm hoping for my own sanity that they make it out of the second round because I will not be able to do it.
Me too, man.
We'll have to go in. I might have to go into that cabin that Aaron Rodgers was in last month and just be in total darkness because I will not be able to deal with the nonsense that's going to be spewed on Twitter if they don't win.
I wouldn't be able to do a post game show or any of that. Like we have like Phillies and Sixers. Like when teams lose, it's so hard. I don't know how you do it all the time, Dives.
Dude,
it's so hard to do those shows.
One of the
Brutal.
we did a post game for that Raptors game when I hit the triple.
Oh my god!
Whatever it's called. We did a post game. That was one of the most ridiculous post game shows of all time, by far.
You know what I did? I watched the second to last episode of Game of Thrones that I recorded.
It was the same. I think it was the same
because I had a buddy over and I was like, I don't want to talk about the game. I don't want to think about the game. I literally turned the TV off, came down, put on Game of Thrones. She was like, nope, I need to totally change my mind from what the hell I just witnessed because it was so devastating. So,
where can they find you, Dibes?
On Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Tonight we've got our final wide receiver rankings on BGN Radio. That'll be coming out tonight and tomorrow. I do a lot of different things with those videos, so I hope you guys like those. Mark Schofield will be joining Party on Broad tomorrow.
Woo!
Defensive line. We're doing 2 shows. We're double dipping. Interior defensive line and edge rusher rankings. That guy just is amazing, and tons of different shorts and stuff coming from that. And of course, Sixers, man. All my rankings for the draft is done. All the hard work and stuff is done. We have tons and tons of more kind of coming on the way. But I'm going to kind of pivot just a little bit and finally start looking at the Sixers just a tad, because they've kind of like fell on the wayside. For me, it's like what you get is what you get when it comes to Doc Rivers and the Sixers. But expect a lot more post-game shows. I've already got some in the works, Nets preview, all that kind of stuff. So thank you, everyone, for watching.
You couldn't help but throw Doc Rivers' name in there. Couldn't help it.
Don't forget, Rob. This is the Sixers that he was out on like 4 weeks ago.
in the second quarter of a game that they won. Yes, correct. Thank you.
You can find me at Freddie Birds _. I'll be on tonight on Edge of Philly Sports, 8:30 p.m. Right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. For Chris Dives and Rob Madness, Rob Philly _Madness. We will see you next week at 6:15. Wrong one.